Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Willie, and this is the encouraging word for today. Did you ever go to a park or maybe a beach on your day off on a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever day you have off, and you pack all your food, you have your blanket, your chair, your family maybe with you, maybe a few friends, and when you start out, it's a beautiful day, and you're sitting there, you're enjoying your time together. Then the clouds start coming. Then it starts getting a cold wind starts blowing. And before you know it, there's rain coming, then thunder and lightning. And you have to run off the beach. That ever happened to you? It happened to me about 3 years ago. Storms come unexpectedly. And not only is that true in our days off, but it's also true in our lives. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a storm engulfs our life. It could be the death of a loved one, unexpectedly. It could be a diagnosis that we receive in our regular yearly checkup. It could be what's happening in Israel, what's happening in Ukraine, and you're affected by a war going on. It could be a child who turns away, becomes a prodigal child, and you don't hear from them for a long time. It happened during COVID. It could be a financial breakdown that you have, where everything just dries up. There's always storms coming into our lives. And when a storm comes, our hope is under attack. Our hope is put to the test, so to speak. Storms try our faith. They weigh our faith. They sift our faith. Now, we're studying the life of Paul, and we're at the point where he's a prisoner. He's on his way to Rome. There's a centurion in charge of him. There are other prisoners also, and they have gone on a ship, a sailing ship, to cross the sea, the Mediterranean Sea. And the thing about it is, sailing at that time from where they were to where they wanted to go by Rome was only good at a certain time of the year. It had to happen during a certain season when the winds were favorable. Remember, there were no motors. It was all by sail. And it had to be when there were no storms. So they got delayed, and they're about to go, and it's kind of like just starting the hurricane season, we could say. But Paul warns them, it's not going to be good to go. It's going to result in a disaster. But they don't listen to Paul. And let's pick up the story at Acts 27, verse 13 and 14. It says this: when a gentle south wind began to blow, the people on the ship, they saw their opportunity. So they weighed anchor and sailed along the shore of Crete. Before very long, a wind of hurricane force called the northeaster swept down from the land. They're now out on the water. There's no turning back. They've made a decision to take a chance to go. They were hoping they'd have a good trip. So it starts when there was a gentle south wind began to blow. They saw their opportunity. Sometimes something happens and we see an opportunity. It's an opportunity for me to do it. But behind that opportunity was their desire. They wanted to leave. They were desperate to leave. And their mind was not thinking clearly. It's hurricane season now. and you have a clear day. Oh, it looks great now. Let's go. And so they go. A day can change everything. So it says they weighed their anchor, which means they brought it back on board, and then they started to sail along the coast. Then suddenly, before very long, a wind of hurricane force. This is not just a bad storm. This is a hurricane. I don't know if you've ever been in a hurricane. I've been in many, but I've been in the house. I would hate to be on the water in a hurricane. I also remember that movie, The Perfect Storm, when they're out on the ocean in a hurricane. I can still see that scene in my mind. It's terrifying. That's where they are. They actually got into that situation, and it swept down upon them. So one thing we learn is that storms in the weather and storms in life can come suddenly, unexpectedly. You see, they were not expecting it. They had like a rosy-colored view, rosy-colored glasses on, and thought everything's going to work out all right. And look, it's a nice day out right now. It's like when we have a warning that a storm is coming, but we look out the window. I don't see it. It looks nice. Let's go. And yes, sometimes the weather people are wrong, but storms come suddenly into our lives. We get that call. We get that diagnosis. Our child doesn't come back one night. The storm comes. So the ship, I'll continue telling you the story. The ship was caught by the storm and could not head into the wind. When a storm happens, it's going to change your direction in life. Be sure of it. It's going to impact your life. So it says, so they gave way to it and were driven along. A storm will drive you along. It'll take you to places you never imagined you would be. I remember being as a little boy, being in a cancer ward with my mother. Never expected to be there. Storms take you to places you never intended to be. And then it says they went by a small island. They were hardly able to make the lifeboat secure. Now they're at the point where they can't handle it themselves. They cannot control the storm. And my friends, when you and I are in the storms of life we face, there will be difficult storms beyond our ability to handle in our own strength, beyond our ability to figure out, beyond our ability to resolve. So what they did is they passed ropes under the ship just to hold it together, and they were afraid it would run aground on the sandbars and be destroyed. And it kept getting driven along. And it says they took such a violent battering from the storm that they even began to throw the cargo overboard. Then they threw the ship's equipment overboard to make things lighter. Then, when they didn't see the sun or the stars for a few days, and the storm didn't stop, they finally gave up all hope of being saved. Remember, they started out, they were hoping this is what they looked for. Now they've given up all hope. They're at the bottom, they are at the end. So this is a picture for us to learn from. Number one is, as I said, storms will come into our life. To deny that is to deny reality. Number two, storms will drive us along and we'll end up in places we never imagined we would be. We're not in control of the storm. And number three, the battle is going to be for our hope. Satan will seek to steal our hope. So the key, and I learned this from Tony Evans, when I heard him speak once, is to prepare yourself before the storm. Because once the storm happens, it's too late to prepare yourself for the storm. When it's raining, that's not the time to change the roof. You do it before it starts raining. But there was one man on that ship, our friend, our teacher, the Apostle Paul. And I know he knew the story of what had happened to the 12 disciples. It's written down in Mark 4:37, because he spent a lot of time with the disciples, and I'm sure they related this story to him. They were on a boat, Jesus was in the boat, and suddenly a storm, a violent storm came, and they were terrified. And Jesus got up and he calmed the storm. Even the winds and waves obeyed him, and they were amazed. So the lesson for us is no storm is out of the control of God. It's out of our control, but no storm is out of God's control or takes him by surprise. Sometimes God calms the storm, but more often than calming the storm, God uses the storm to accomplish his purposes in our life, to refine us, to build our faith, to develop our character. I think of Jonah, suddenly a storm worked it in Jonah's life. In a broken world, sometimes storms will affect us that are not about us. So I hope that gives you some insights into storms. And on Monday, we'll look at Paul's response to the same storm where everybody lost hope. God bless you. Have a great weekend.